first and major one is the presentation of evidence of wrongdoing against a prominent talk show collaborator. I thought it important to have a press conference of this because this particular character, and I use the word deliberately, is somebody well known in the talk show circuit, well known for making all kinds of accusations against certain government officials, doing all sorts of surreptitious activities, such that one of the reasons why I always had skepticism about the allegations of villa ownership against the Prime Minister, because he was one of the main ones who supposedly had this email collaborative evidence. And I know he's a character who can do a lot of things with IT. I have seen the kind of things he have done. I myself have been the victim of other people's hatchet jobs in terms of handling emails. So I didn't put it past him to concoct all kinds of things with emails and such. Doesn't mean this is the case this time, but it just means that he's capable of all this kind of thing. This particular one I'm bringing to you this morning is where he called me on the phone pretending to be someone else. Now, it's not the first time, I may not have mentioned his name yet. Mr. Trevor Johnson has done this. You may have known where he did this in the case of Ian Douglas, the minister, and pretended to be someone, and Ian Douglas supposedly confessed about all sorts of things. He also did it with Tony Astafan, and I give him credit for that. Tony Astafan is a pretty sharp guy, but he got fooled at the time. And I have to admit also that Trevor Johnson has called me more than once, pretending to be other people. A couple of times he called me pretending to be the head of GIS, Mr. Mervyn Paul. I was able to, however, catch him on those occasions and just sort of disconnect. This last time, he called me on my cell phone and I was in the car. And as you'll hear, and that was just after, by the way, he also leaked something about a contract that had been, or an appointment that was being made by the cabinet of Dominica. And he posted online all details of my contract, salaries, allowances, and whatnot. Even before I had the privilege of seeing what those terms were of the contract. Quite frankly, to this day, as you know, the wheels of government tend to work a little slow. To this day, I have not seen the terms of the contract that cabinet has supposedly approved for me, and I certainly haven't signed the contract yet. I almost certainly will sign a contract because it's something that had been in discussion for, in fact, several months. But as you may know, when you're negotiating things, cabinet may have decided to take out a little thing, reduce a few things, add a few more responsibilities that I don't know yet about. And it's only when it's brought to my notice that I will be able to see what, in fact, the terms are that cabinet has approved. But as I say, Trevor Johnson had leaked that on the media. And then called me on my cell phone. I was in my vehicle. My assistant, Brendan Kazimi, normally picks up the phone for me. And as you will hear, he picks it up and the person is pretending to want to speak to me about my contract. Now, it's so interesting by way of background. Just at this time, the government contract was pending or had just been approved. I had been negotiating a much smaller contract on another business to do with the DAIC. So when Trevor called and said, your contract is ready for signing, it didn't sound like a government voice. And the way it was put, I mean, government people don't just call you like that. I said, well, who's that? Is that Ashil? Because Ashil Joseph was the guy who, as you know, is the secretary, general secretary of the DAIC. And you'll hear where I said, is that you, Ashil? Yes, yes. Ashil Joseph? I was making clear. And he said, yes, Ashil Joseph. Your contract? I said, well, because it's something I was pending actually for several weeks. Ashil was very busy. I could never get him. So I said, you want me to come right away and sign? And he said, yes, come on. And I went up to Ashil Joseph's DAIC office, and Ashil wasn't there. And that surprised me. And I tried to call Ashil Joseph and couldn't find him, and I found that so very strange. But honestly, my mind was not at the time thinking that somebody had concocted this whole telephone call. It was only after that Trevor Johnson himself posted what you will hear on his website or online or whatever. There are two things wrong there, and you'll hear the clipping. It's wrong to impersonate somebody, falsely, obviously. It's also very wrong to, and the laws against this, for taping someone, a telephone conversation without their approval. I have spoken with my lawyers, and they say, yes, while these things are illegal, it's probably not worth my time to file lawsuits and so on. So I may not bother. It's still pending. But the lawyer was quite happy and encouraged a press conference to let the public know the kind of things that some of these characters do against people who they think are too supportive of the government, or, as you've heard, even against government ministers. So I will now play that particular clipping. Some of you may already be familiar with it. Let's hope the technology works as it's supposed to work.
Good morning, Mr. Bellot.
Hello, good morning, Parry Bellot.
Good morning, Parry Bellot. Hello, good morning, Parry.
Yeah, how are you doing here?
I'm fine. Your contract is ready for signing. When are you coming to sign it?
Who's that? That's not you.
Yes.
Actually, you did.
Yes, your contract is ready for...
Yes, okay. Are you at the office now?
Yes, I'm there.
All right, well, I'll come now.
Okay, thank you.
Coming now, yeah.
Does that need a repeat? It needs a repeat. Okay, that's good. And then you certainly can ask the question right after.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Bellot.
That's my assistant, Terry.
Hello, good morning, Parry Bellot.
Good morning, Parry Bellot. Hello, good morning, Parry.
Yeah, how are you doing here?
I'm fine. Your contract is ready for signing. When are you coming to sign it?
Who's that? That's not you.
Yes.
Actually, you did.
Yes, your contract is ready for...
Yes, okay. Are you at the office now?
Yes, I'm there.
All right, well, I'll come now.
Okay, thank you.
Coming now, yeah.
Okay, any questions that particular incident before we move on? Yeah. That these...
Sorry.
This person...
Hold on, Mr. Bellot, one second.
Sorry. The point I want to make, and that's a fair question, is that these people with these sort of nefarious activities are the same kind of people who are doing all kinds of things and fabricating things against the government. Now, I have a lot of evidence of that. It's been going on for a couple of years. One I remember in particular, finding out about some university that it was claimed was established in Dominica. And I remember bringing that to the Prime Minister's attention and saying, but how can we have these kind of things and the Dominican public doesn't know that we have another university? And he said, but Mr. Bellot, that is not true at all. There's no such thing. And I started checking back and found out, no, it didn't exist. Somebody had just posted this thing on the internet. There was another time again when I see Mr. Skerritt on internet is inviting people to join in on Facebook. And I said, that doesn't sound like Mr. Skerritt, the Prime Minister, inviting any and all to be his friend on Facebook. And checked with Mr. Skerritt, and no, that didn't exist. Who is behind it all? Mr. Trevor Johnson. Yes.
My point is, I don't know Trevor Johnson's voice.
Oh, well, the proof of that is, as I told you, he himself, and I can actually send you the email, I actually sent it to Ashton Joseph and several other people. He himself posted that clipping online. He himself posted it.
Admitting to it?
Admitting to it, yes, like nothing wrong. There's a bravado there, that's something else. It's the same kind of thing that affects Mr. Leonard Clinton, and we'll come to that later. That they figure, nobody's going to sue them, nobody's going to bother with them, so they just say and do anything. And to some extent they've been proved right. As you know, the Prime Minister has hesitated going to court and others. Hopefully the Bubbles case will end some of that. I said collaborator was the word I used. Collaborate very much with Leonard Clinton. As you know, he was one of the key people with the famous Super Singh. And he was, as far as I know, was one of those involved in actually obtaining. Now, when I say obtaining, it may have merely passed through him. He may not have been the one who got the suppressing emails, but it went through him, from what I understand, some of them.
So,
yes.
Mr. Bellot, Alvin Alexander,
yes.
Are you in any way fearful that Trevor Johnson may continue to do this and reveal any information about you? Is it a situation up there? Are you concerned about this?
I'm not concerned about it. I mean, his capability, for instance, as I mentioned earlier, where he got information about my contract with Tears, I would love to know. But he seems to have great sources of information and great ways of getting details of information. As you know, technology now today is such, it's hard to control. It's really hard to manage. But I'm not fearsome because I don't have anything to hide, not much to hide.
And the information disclosed was correct?
What information?
The information is about the contract, that was correct?
Was pretty much accurate. I didn't look at it in detail. But I know for sure the salary figure is correct. Remember, as I said, what government finally agreed to, I don't know. He was talking about the cabinet, what cabinet approved. I know what had been talked about with the Prime Minister and other officials in government. But to this day, I don't know what had been approved with government.
Almost accurate to what you had spoken.
It was what I saw, seemed pretty accurate, yes.
Any impression that there might be somebody inside of cabinet giving out that information?
I get that impression, yes, and one wouldn't be surprised if you have, 200 people working in a government building. There are probably at least 2 or 3 that are strong supporters of the opposition, which is their right to be. And there's at least one who is willing to, leak a little something to the opposition. You have that all over the world, so I'm sure here is not unique.
So, Mr. Bellot, the contents of that contract, why is it of so much concern as to what Mr. Johnson has leaked out?
No. Remember, today I'm not protesting what he leaked out about the contract. I use that to show his ability to get all kinds of information, is what I'm saying. What I was concerned about and what I was highlighting today was there, again, a clear breach of decency, morality, ethics, and I think the law in terms of impersonating someone and then taping the conversation.
Now, are you going to recommend to government, or are you recommending to stakeholders within government probably to screen the processes of cabinet, seeing that it gives you an impression that someone may be leaking information from cabinet?
I may be fired by government before I even take up the job. But Mr. Ailey, is it? Alvin Ailey? Alvin Alexander. Alvin is a famous dancer. Mr. Alexander, quite frankly, there are a lot of inefficiencies and things that are not right in how government operates, the systems. I have been writing about that for years and years. To some extent, some things have been improved on, but they're still very, very far to go. So I think government knows my views, and I think government knows the views of most educated people, that these kind of things should not be allowed to continue without some kind of investigation. But there are limitations in capacity of individuals. There's limitations in what government really is able to do in terms of the modern technology and so on. We don't have all the equipment. And some even argue whether we should be spending our time trying to find who is leaking stuff, or spending our time trying to see how we can get the government more productive. I would argue the latter. Let's get the government and the country moving forward and waste time. I shouldn't waste time, but spending time on trying to find out who's leaking stuff. Anything else on that subject? No.